In a small suburban neighborhood, nestled within a quiet community, life at Eastwood Middle School had always felt uneventful. The school, surrounded by rows of neatly kept houses, was a place where kids gathered in tight-knit groups, studying together and sharing stories. The teachers were friendly, the students mostly well-behaved, and the parents were actively involved in school events. It seemed like the perfect setting until the discovery that would change everything. The trouble started one afternoon when a group of 8th grade students were hanging out after school in the computer lab. They were talking about upcoming assignments, the usual chatter of middle school life. Then, one student, Brian, stumbled upon something odd while browsing through a classmate's shared files. Among the usual schoolwork, there was an unknown folder titled The Humiliation Room. His curiosity piqued. He opened the folder to find a series of videos that seemed completely out of place. At first, Brian thought it might be a prank, but as he played the videos, his unease grew. The footage was disturbingly realistic. It wasn't just some poorly made jokes or edits, it was professional quality. The people in the videos were his classmates, teachers, even family members. What shocked him most was how lifelike the deepfakes were. They showed the individuals in compromising, humiliating situations, none of which they had ever been a part of in real life. Brian's heart raced as he realized the gravity of what he had found. The videos weren't just simple pranks, they were personal, violating, and meant to destroy the reputations of those involved. His first instinct was to laugh it off, thinking it might just be some twisted joke, but something inside him told him that this wasn't right. He quickly showed the videos to his friends, who were equally disturbed. Together, they decided to explore the server further, uncovering more videos of classmates, teachers, and even some local community members. Each video was more shocking than the last. What they had initially thought might be a random, one-off occurrence turned into a web of deceit that spread across the entire school. The videos were uploaded to a private Discord server that was locked down with tight privacy settings. It was clear that whoever was behind it had gone to great lengths to keep their identity hidden. The videos were uploaded anonymously, with no clues as to who could have created them. The server's access logs were wiped clean, and the user profiles were all designed to look generic and untraceable. The deepfake technology used in these videos was sophisticated, enough to make even the most tech-savvy person doubt what they were seeing. Brian and his friends knew they couldn't just ignore what they had found. They debated whether to tell an adult or try to handle it themselves. Fearing the repercussions, they decided to go to the school's principal, Miss Harper, with what they had discovered. She immediately contacted the authorities, and the school quickly became the center of a criminal investigation. The police were just as baffled. They had dealt with cyberbullying cases before, but nothing like this. The videos were of a caliber far beyond simple online harassment. This was deliberate, calculated, and malicious. Soon parents were notified, and a wave of panic washed over the school. The community was in shock. The school, once a safe and friendly place, had been violated in a way no one had anticipated. Everyone was questioning who could have done this, but the real question remained: how could someone so young have created such a deeply disturbing and harmful series of videos? The discovery of the server had just begun to unravel a story that no one was prepared for. As the investigation into the Humiliation Room deepfake videos began, the school community was thrown into turmoil. The discovery of the server had raised more questions than answers. The local authorities, along with the school's administration, now had the daunting task of tracking down the person responsible for creating and sharing the videos. The primary clue they had was the server's access, which had been primarily active during school hours, suggesting the culprit was likely someone from within the school. But who? The list of potential suspects seemed endless. Detectives began by examining the students who had the technical knowledge to produce such sophisticated deepfakes. Eastwood Middle School had always prided itself on offering a cutting-edge curriculum, which included computer science classes. Among the students, there was a small group who were known for their prowess with technology, and many of them had access to the computer lab during free periods and after school hours. The first name that came up was Ethan Carter, a quiet, introverted 8th grader who had a reputation for being a computer whiz. Ethan had been known to spend hours in the school's computer lab, often late into the evening, tinkering with programs, coding, and exploring the digital world. His interest in computers was so intense that he had been caught several times attempting to hack into the school's grading system. While those attempts were generally harmless pranks, they showed a clear inclination toward technological mischief. His reputation as a hacker made him a prime suspect when the investigation into the deepfake videos began. Ethan's behavior had also changed in recent months. Teachers had noticed him becoming more withdrawn, and his academic performance had been erratic. He would often skip class, preferring to stay in the lab, where he was left alone. A few students had even reported that Ethan had started making strange comments about revenge and getting back at people who didn't appreciate him. But no one had taken those comments seriously, dismissing them as typical middle school angst. Another student who became a person of interest was Jenna Martinez, the class president and an outspoken advocate for fairness. Jenna was popular among her peers, with a reputation for always doing what was right. But beneath her perfect exterior, rumors swirled about her bitter rivalry with several classmates. Some students had claimed that Jenna had been targeted by a group of her peers in the past, bullied and excluded in subtle but damaging ways. As the investigation progressed, it emerged that Jenna had been quietly plotting her revenge. She had access to private information about many of her classmates, which she had gathered over the years, and had even become proficient in digital editing tools, a skill she had developed in her spare time. Despite her public image as a leader, Jenna was not without enemies. Her involvement in the school's social dynamics had often placed her at odds with certain groups. And now, as the investigation focused on those with potential motives for creating the deepfake videos, she became a key suspect. Could someone so outwardly put together have a dark side capable of creating such malicious content? The third person of interest was Lucas Green, a relatively unknown student who flew under the radar. Lucas had always been quiet and rarely interacted with others outside his circle of friends. However, he was known to have a deep interest in video editing and had spent many hours experimenting with software tools. His affinity for technology made him another potential suspect. What made Lucas particularly suspicious was the discovery that he had access to the school's computer lab during odd hours, often when other students were not around. Though he wasn't known for causing trouble, his technical skills and secretive nature raised red flags during the investigation. As detectives gathered evidence, a pattern began to form. Ethan, Jenna, and Lucas all had access to the necessary technology to create deepfakes. Each had been in the lab at various points in time, but there was no direct evidence linking them to the server or the videos themselves. The deeper the investigation went, the more questions it raised, and the school community grew increasingly tense. Paranoia began to spread among the students. Friendships faltered and suspicions ran high. Some students began to turn on each other, accusing classmates of being involved, while others became more defensive, fearing they might be falsely implicated. The investigation had become a web of uncertainty, and no one knew who could be trusted. The truth was slowly beginning to unravel, but the real culprit remained elusive. The investigation into the deepfake videos took a dramatic turn when the authorities discovered that the server hosting the Humiliation room was not only filled with videos of teachers, students, but also carefully organized in a way that suggested someone had been planning this for months. The videos were methodically categorized, each labeled with the names of victims, and the timestamps on the uploads revealed they were all posted during specific hours. This pointed to the undeniable fact that the person behind the server was someone with direct access to the school's network or computers. The next breakthrough came when forensic experts managed to trace the video source. The videos had been uploaded from a local IP address that was only accessible from within the school's network. This narrowed down the list of potential suspects to only those who had access to the school's computers during class hours or after school. The authorities then began combing through the school's security footage, hoping to find someone who had spent time in the computer lab around the time the videos were uploaded. It didn't take long before the investigation zeroed in on a few key pieces of evidence. The school's security cameras showed that several students had accessed the computer lab at odd hours, but the most notable figure was Lucas Green. Despite being a relatively quiet student, Lucas had been spending an unusually large amount of time in the lab during the months leading up to the discovery. He had often stayed late after school, and in some instances he was the last one to leave the building. His consistent presence in the lab raised suspicions, especially since no one could remember exactly what he was doing during those late hours. Lucas's involvement seemed increasingly likely, but detectives were still cautious. They needed more than just circumstantial evidence. They needed concrete proof. A break in the case came when a flash drive was discovered hidden inside one of the school's computers. The drive was formatted with a password, but with the help of the school's IT department, the authorities managed to unlock it. What they found on the drive sent shockwaves through the investigation. Inside the flash drive were files containing raw footage, editing software, and dozens of unfinished deepfake videos, some of them still in progress. It was clear that whoever had used the drive was in the process of creating more content for the Humiliation Room server. The evidence pointed directly to Lucas, who had been the primary user of that computer during the times when the videos were being edited. But there was still one crucial piece missing, a direct link between Lucas and the server itself. The authorities continued to probe deeper into the school's network. It wasn't long before they found a trail of digital breadcrumbs that led to a shocking revelation. Lucas had used his personal email account to sign up for the Discord server where the videos had been shared. Though he had used an alias to mask his identity, forensic experts were able to trace the account back to his email address. This connection was the final nail in the coffin. However, as the investigation neared its conclusion, another layer of mystery began to unfold. Lucas wasn't the only one involved in the creation of the videos. His friends Ethan and Jenna had also played a part in the process, though not as creators. They had unknowingly been used as pawns in a larger scheme. The videos were edited and distributed, but they had been convinced by Lucas that the project was harmless and just a technical experiment. Neither Ethan nor Jenna knew the full extent of what Lucas was doing, but they had unknowingly provided the personal information and images that were used in the videos. The revelation that Lucas had manipulated his friends, leading them to unknowingly contribute to the creation of the deepfakes, sent shockwaves through the school. Ethan and Jenna were shocked and confused, having never anticipated that their involvement, however minor, could result in such devastation. They had believed they were just helping out a friend with his digital experiments, never knowing how twisted those experiments had become. With the truth now exposed, the authorities were faced with a difficult decision. Lucas had masterminded the entire operation, but his friends, Ethan and Jenna, were left to deal with the fallout of their unwitting participation. The investigation had revealed that the entire incident was far more complex than anyone had imagined. What had started as a prank had spiraled out of control, becoming a deeply disturbing case of cyber manipulation, betrayal, and exploitation. As the school community grappled with the truth, the implications of what had happened would continue to haunt everyone involved for years to come. As the investigation unfolded, a new and startling truth emerged, one that no one had expected. The true mastermind behind the Humiliation Room server wasn't Ethan, Jenna, or Lucas, but a quiet seventh grader named Mia Evans. Mia had been a student that most people overlooked. She was soft-spoken, often seen alone in the school library or in the art room, her nose buried in a sketchbook. No one had ever suspected her to be involved in anything nefarious. She had always come across as shy, an innocent artist with a love for painting and drawing, a stark contrast to the chaos and darkness that had been unleashed by the deepfake videos. But as detectives dug deeper, they uncovered a chilling truth. Mia had been quietly working in the shadows, manipulating her classmates and friends into unknowingly aiding her in her twisted project. It turned out that she had been the one orchestrating the entire series of events from the beginning. While Lucas, Ethan, and Jenna were all active participants, Mia had been the one pulling the strings, using her quiet demeanor to remain unnoticed. Her initial involvement in the creation of the videos began when she realized that she had a unique set of skills that could help her achieve something extraordinary, skills that no one suspected her of having. Mia had developed a deep fascination with digital art and computer program skills that she had honed in her free time. She had spent hours teaching herself how to use deepfake technology and video editing software, learning the ins and outs of digital manipulation. Her passion for creating art transformed into an obsession with experimenting on real-life subjects, turning them into digital avatars for her own twisted fantasies. Mia had started small, creating altered images and videos for herself, experimenting with the software she had taught herself to use. But as her confidence grew, so did her ambition. She began collecting personal photos and videos of her classmates, teachers, and even family members, people she knew, people she interacted with every day. She didn't need to hack into private accounts or steal confidential data. She had access to all the material she needed simply by observing the people around her. Mia had a knack for getting close to her classmates and learning their secrets, often chatting with them during lunch or after school, carefully observing the way they behaved, what they said, and who they interacted with. Her first videos were simple and harmless. They were harmless pranks, harmless experiments, designed just to test her new skills. But soon the innocent nature of her work gave way to something much darker. Mia began to target individuals she felt had wronged her, those who had bullied her or ignored her over the years. She started creating deepfakes that were humiliating, shocking, and cruel, with no regard for the consequences of her actions. Mia had been careful to conceal her identity. She created anonymous accounts, masked her traces, and used different aliases to cover her tracks. She knew that if anyone suspected her, she would be caught immediately. But she was also cautious about who she trusted. She approached Ethan, Jenna, and Lucas under the guise of collaborating on a harmless digital project. She convinced them that what they were doing was just a bit of fun, a simple experiment in technology. They had no idea they were helping her create something far more sinister. In her mind, Mia justified her actions as a form of revenge. She felt overlooked, ignored, and mistreated by many of her classmates, and the videos became her way of gaining power. The videos of teachers and students that Mia created were her way of exacting revenge for every slight, every moment of humiliation she had ever experienced. She believed that by manipulating these people digitally, she could somehow control them, strip them of their dignity, and make them feel the way she had felt for years. When detectives finally uncovered her role, it was a shock to everyone, especially those who had known her best. Mia had been hiding in plain sight, her quiet demeanor and artistic interests masking the darkness within. It was clear that Mia had been living in a world of her own creation, a world where she believed the pain she had suffered could be erased through manipulation and digital transformation. Her actions had shattered the lives of so many people, and now the entire school was left to grapple with the realization that someone so seemingly innocent had caused so much harm. Mia was arrested and charged with several crimes including harassment, identity theft, and cyberbullying. But even as she was taken away, the community was left to wonder. How could a child so young have harbored such a deep need for revenge? And why did she think her actions would go unnoticed for so long? The damage done to the victims of her deepfakes was profound, and the school, once a place of safety and routine, was forever changed. The discovery of Mia's involvement shattered the illusion that a quiet, unassuming student could never be capable of something so harmful. The ripple effects of her actions would be felt by the community for years to come, as they learned the dangers of underestimating the quiet ones and the powerful reach of modern technology. The aftermath of the deepfake scandal at Eastwood Middle School left the entire community shaken. What had once been a tight-knit and trusting environment was now filled with uncertainty and fear. Mia Evans, the seemingly innocent seventh grader behind the entire operation, had been arrested, but the consequences of her actions were far-reaching and left an indelible mark on everyone involved. Mia's arrest was just the beginning of a long and painful journey for the victims. The teachers and students whose likenesses had been manipulated and humiliated in the deepfake videos struggled to cope with the emotional toll. Some of them, once confident and well-liked, found themselves ostracized, their reputations damaged irreparably. Students who had never thought they would become the target of such cruelty were now left wondering who they could trust. The thought that someone they had sat next to in class, or even considered a friend, had been behind such malicious acts left them feeling betrayed and exposed. The most difficult part for the victims was the lingering uncertainty. The videos, though exposed as fakes, had left scars. For the teachers, parents, and students who had been featured in the videos, it wasn't just the public embarrassment that hurt, but the feeling of helplessness that came with being digitally manipulated. The videos made them feel like they had lost control over their own identities. Many of the students had never fully realized how much personal data they shared online, and the deepfake videos served as a harsh reminder of how vulnerable they were in the digital age. Mia's family was also thrust into the spotlight. Her parents, who had always seen their daughter as a quiet, creative child, were horrified when they learned of her actions. They had never suspected that Mia, the girl who loved to draw and paint, could be capable of something so malicious. They struggled to come to terms with the fact that their daughter had been harboring so much anger and resentment. They were left to reconcile the child they thought they knew with the person who had caused so much harm. At school, the administration was forced to take drastic measures. The principal, Mrs. Harper, had been blindsided by the scale of the operation, as had the rest of the faculty. The school quickly implemented new cybersecurity protocols and began offering counseling services to both students and staff affected by the videos. The school's IT department was tasked with tightening security on the school's network, and new guidelines were introduced regarding the use of personal devices and digital media. Despite these efforts, trust within the school was slow to rebuild. Students who had been involved, even indirectly, in Mia's scheme were scrutinized and treated with suspicion. Ethan, Jenna, and Lucas, though not the mastermind, still carried the weight of their involvement. Ethan, who had been fascinated with technology, was now seen in a different light by his peers. Jenna, once the confident class president, became a target for those who felt she had betrayed their trust. Lucas, the quiet and seemingly harmless student, faced harsh judgment from classmates who felt he had helped Mia without fully understanding the consequences of his actions. As time went on, the school held a series of meetings with parents and local authorities to address the broader issue of online safety and the impact of cyberbullying. These discussions became more about prevention than punishment, as the community sought ways to protect students from the dangers of digital manipulation. Teachers began to focus on educating students about the ethical use of technology, the importance of consent, and the real-world consequences of digital actions. The idea that something as seemingly harmless as a digital prank could escalate into a full-blown crime became a central lesson in the curriculum. For Mia, the consequences were far more severe. She was charged with multiple offenses, including harassment, identity theft, and cybercrimes. As a minor, she faced the prospect of juvenile detention, but the psychological evaluations that followed revealed the depth of her emotional turmoil. Mia had been isolated and misunderstood, and while her actions were inexcusable, the investigation into her background painted a picture of a troubled child who had been bottling up years of anger and frustration. The system would now have to decide how best to rehabilitate her, but the damage to her future was already done. The impact of Mia's actions rippled far beyond Eastwood Middle School. News outlets covered the case extensively, and experts weighed in on the dangers of deepfake technology, sparking a broader conversation about privacy, identity, and digital ethics. Parents across the country began to question how they could better protect their children from the growing threats online. The case served as a wake-up call, showing how easily technology could be misused and how crucial it was for young people to understand the responsibility that came with it. As the months passed, the scars left by the scandal began to fade, but the lessons learned would stay with the community for a long time. Trust was slowly restored, but the effects of Mia's actions had forever altered the way the school viewed its students, its technology, and the potential dangers lurking in the digital world. The ripple effect of the scandal was felt not only within the walls of the school, but in the homes of the families involved, as they all grappled with the aftermath of what had transpired.